especially thank you for Starman. Putting Starman and Roadster into space was the most life-changing thing I've ever seen. Also, I wanted to give you this, and thank you for allowing this to happen. This is the Starman Begins episode we just made.
Thanks.
Just a gift.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for, I mean, like, the course we're on, that, I was a space geek as a kid, and I didn't believe anything was going to happen, because in the 90s, nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And I didn't even pursue an engineering career, because there was nothing to do in space. But when I saw that, it was like, I knew that this was real, and pretty much changed everything I was doing to now I make this.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, and do you know how it came to be that a Roadster was in the Falcon Heavy?
I've heard bits of internal lore, but never from you, so I would love to hear this.
Well, normally when there's a new rocket that's launched, there's something very boring, like a chunk of concrete or something is just as, because you don't going to risk an expensive satellite on the first launch of a new rocket. So but I was like, hey guys, we can't put a chunk of concrete, that's going to be super boring. That's what Boeing would do. Literally, they did do it, in fact. Like, they literally, I think it was a chunk of concrete or something that they put on their first launch, of the Delta IV or something. So I'm like, no, we got to spice it up. So I was talking to my friend Jonah Nolan, who's like, he wrote like the really good Batman movies and Westworld and stuff. Chris Nolan's brother, So.
Oh wow.
And I was in his kitchen, and he suggested that we should put a Tesla in, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a good idea. And so I was like, well, I've got one in my garage. We could use that one. So, so it's not serial number 1 or anything. It's a later, like 1500 serial number or something like that. And so literally the car that I was driving around LA is now in orbit around Earth and Mars.
You can track it.
Yeah. But it was basically like, let's have something that looks cool instead of boring concrete. And I really thought there was like quite a good chance the rocket would fail. We've had a number of rocket failures in the past. So there's so much that can go wrong with a Falcon Heavy that's kind of like surprising that it all worked. Like, it was like, holy crow, I can't believe it all worked. This is insane. That was my reaction with the Falcon Heavy launch. And then the Starman was like, well, we've got a car. Got to put someone in the car, Otherwise, like, who's driving it, And so that's where we put the Starman in the car.
And then there's the tiny Starman in the car.
And that was a friend of mine, Nora, who was like, yo, we should put like a small, I should put like the Matchbox Tesla on the, on the dashboard with a tiny Starman in it. I was like, okay, we'll do it. So then, like, I don't know what the aliens are going to think when they discover it. Like, clearly they worship this thing, and then they made a small version of it because they worship it so much. It's like the stuff like that we just discover of ancient civilizations. Probably the answer might be like much more like, less serious than we think it. Like, oh, this is like we just think everything's a temple that they worshipped, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like some thing that they made.
Memes all the way down.
Exactly, totally.
I also have one selfish question. Car sharing. Obviously, we're working towards full autonomy. That's the main goal, but there seems to be a 0.5 step. And I'm actually a car sharer. I have 8 Teslas and 1 Rivian sharing on Turo. And I just feel like there's so many ways that, like, the Model Y specifically is optimized, and Cybertruck in the future will be even more optimized for car sharing. Is there someone working on that at Tesla?
Our issues for the last few years have been not car sharing. Like, I mean, I guess like a rental car, is kind of a car sharing situation.
Sure, Hertz being
a
big player now.
Yeah, we've just been trying to keep the factories operating. The last couple of years has been a very difficult thing, and like supply chain interruptions have been severe, like extremely severe. So it has required all of our attention just to keep the factories going, not to think of like. At the end of it, like the super hard part for a car company is like, how do you get revenue above cost so you don't go bankrupt? Yeah. So it's not really like as long as our demand is enough to absorb the production, and we have production enough to cover our fixed expenses, then we're in an okay spot.
Sure. But I'm thinking about like downtime. If these cars are traveling 400,000 miles, sitting in someone's driveway, they're not going to collect 400,000 miles before the paint's kind of having issues. I imagine that increasing the utilization of the existing fleet obviously full self-driving does that, but up until then, if we have car sharing installed to increase utilization, increase the number of miles on these vehicles, it's a good thing for the world.
I said that this is that's a high class problem that you know, the thing that, like, car companies, you should think of car companies as, like, at any given point they desperately want to go bankrupt. Okay, that a car company is desperately trying to go bankrupt at any given point in time. In order to have that not be the case, you have to have factories have to be active. Otherwise, you have parts piling up in warehouses all around the world, and you can't ship but if you're missing any parts, you can't finish the car and ship it. So the past 2 years have been an absolute nightmare of supply chain interruptions, one thing after another, and we're not out of it yet. That's overwhelmingly our concern, is how do we keep the factories operating so we can pay people and not go bankrupt. And then everything else is, like, nice to have, but even recently, like the COVID shutdowns in China were very, very difficult.
Yeah, you guys
Say the
actually do
least.
so well that we all think of you as a tech company first, which has, like, like Apple, right? They make hardware, but they spend way more money on software, which I'd even say I've gotten the perception sometimes that it's like, oh yeah, they've got this just huge stack of bandwidth, but, like, you're right, the amount of money and hardware moving through this place is...
Like, this factory is losing insane money right now because we can't make it. Like, we should be outputting a lot more cars from this factory versus a very puny amount of cars. But we had challenges with the 4680 ramp and with the structural pack ramp, and then ironically the tooling, because we were able to do 2170 cells. But the tooling necessary for making 2170 variant cars was stuck in China. So we had this Shanghai factory in op. We got the tooling to enable this factory stuck in port in China with no one to actually move it, which basically then caused this factory's production ramp to be very tiny. Now this is all going to get fixed real fast, but it requires a lot of attention. And will take, like I said, it'll take more effort to get this factory to high volume production than it took to build it in the first place. And the same is true of Berlin. Berlin's in a slightly better position because Berlin started off with the 2170 style and did not have the 4680 and structural pack risk. But both Berlin and Austin factories are gigantic money furnaces right now.
Yeah.
Okay. There should be like a giant roaring sound, which is the sound of money on fire. Okay. That's what.
Dumpster fire, right? In the back.
Fire, bigger than a dumpster. Dumpster's too small. Gigafactory level, like Berlin and Austin are losing billions of dollars right now because there's a ton of expense and hardly any output. So getting Berlin and Austin functional and getting Shanghai back in the saddle fully are overwhelmingly our concerns. Everything else is a very small thing, basically.
Understanding that this is not an immediate concern, but does a Plaid Model 3 make sense to you in your mind?
No.
Could the weight even handle that power strain? Like its potential?
We're trying to reduce complexity.
Gotta increase it. Got it.
Understood.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're our own worst enemy in adding complexity. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, the Model S and X we're doing them not because they are huge money owners, but really for sentimental reasons. They're at full output, we're talking about 100,000 cars a year for S and X. But 3 and Y will do, I don't know, 2 million plus. So it's like 10x the, more, frankly. I think 3 and Y could probably do 3 or 4 million, and S and X will top out at 100,000. Just because the affordability drops off exponentially with price. So as price rises, you basically, the number of people that can afford an S or an X, it doesn't drop by a little, it drops by an order of magnitude. So like a doubling of the price will drop the affordability by a factor of 10, as a rough rule of thumb.
Is there any additional thing that we can continue to do? I mean, we tried our best with the solar taxing. I mean, it's probably hard, even like, I'm like asking you, like, how can we help? It's kind of a weird, it feels like a weird question, but.
Well, I mean, the public support is certainly appreciated. And shooting down FUD is always very helpful. And there's an argument for maybe we should advertise, because the sort of traditional media will not run negative pieces about automotive, because automotive is like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, advertiser in their paper. So they like,
the ads could literally be nothing, but it would be better because the articles therefore would also not be bad.
Yes, like this is so Tesla's like basically free game, whereas it's safe to say that if they run some negative piece about General Motors right next to a General Motors ad, General Motors marketing exec is going to call them up and say, why did you do that?
Do you want me to pull it now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, your budget next year, we'll be spending nothing with your publication next year. Yeah, exactly. That is, and they don't have to do that because they know. So there's a tacit understanding that you don't run hit pieces on your major advertisers.
Yeah,
It's bad for business.
Yeah, right. And then people's like, oh, don't worry, there's a fire, there's a Chinese wall between the business and the editorial. I'm like, yeah, but they also know who's paying their salary. Okay, they don't need like they're not idiots.
Same way there's a firewall between me and my boss. Bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. They just know, don't go there. That's what they know. But they can trash Tesla because Tesla doesn't advertise. So that's the issue. So maybe we should advertise, and at least like I don't know, it's sort of doesn't feel right, but that is something we could do. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, though, like if you look at like if you ignore sort of the Sturm und Drang and say just like, okay, well, is it actually causing us to sell fewer cars? It doesn't seem to be. So then why should we care?
Demand is not an issue.
So they can actually. I mean, frankly, a bunch of the pieces trashing Tesla, as especially like say like 2017 through 2019, the press was just a non-stop hate stream. It was like. Hate, like Tesla's a fraud, Tesla's a failure, Tesla's a fraudulent failure. Tesla, they're like, thumbing through the thesaurus for like bad words to use. It was like insane. You just like click on like the phone, like the stock app ticker, and I remember like for 3 years straight, it would just be like headlines just trashing Tesla, just over and over and over again. And our sales went up. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So I'm like, I guess keep trashing us, because at the end of the day, people were like, oh yeah, I just kept reading about Tesla. I don't know why, but I just kept reading about it. I can't remember what the article was about, but I know I read about Tesla 17 times.
And GM's none.
What is it? Bad press is good press, or whatever.
Yeah, there's like all press is good press. There's some truth to that,
Yeah.
So. Because like generally you say like, of the articles that you read about in a newspaper like last week, how much content can you remember about those articles?
Really, it's
Just the headline.
It's sentiment.
Yeah, the headline vaguely.
People aren't reading the articles.
Yeah. Yes.
And even if they are,
I know like there was a big movement on Twitter like, please read the article before you retweet it or forward it.
Retweet and try to make you confirm. Yeah.
And then they read the headline.
Everyone's just forward retweeting and forwarding based on the friggin' headline, even though the content says the exact opposite of what the headline is. And the headline chosen by the editor and the so the writer is like, I didn't even pick the headline. I literally said the total opposite of what the headline was, and people don't even know because they just forwarded the headline.
Yep.
I mean, actually, that's one of the things that should happen in Twitter is like every time you click on a news article, you hit a paywall, And it's like
now you do, yeah.
Yeah, it's super annoying.
Yeah.
And you can't even read.
to read the article.
Yeah, exactly. So you can just see the headline, and you literally can't read the damn article.
You might as well just.
Yeah. So
There
it's
should be like
like
a little sign there that says "Can't read article."
yeah, and it's like I don't want to get a subscription to the Philadelphia Inquirer, but I'm sure they have every now and again a good article that I'd like to read. But I don't want 12,000 subscriptions, and also they don't even make it easy to get a subscription. It's this 18-page process where you tell us everything about your entire life is what's required to subscribe to XYZ newspaper in some whatever. Man, who's going to do that? So
Imagine what it would do.
and then they keep losing my password for the ones that
Exactly. And then it opens Twitter's emulated browser, so it doesn't even log in anyway.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's I actually I have a subscription to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, but I open it, I click on the Twitter link, and I'm it's saying that I'm not a subscriber.
Yeah.
So then I have to go to the web server, have it redirect to the app on my phone, and it's this cockamamie nonsense.
This feels like a problem for Apple, though.
I was literally just about to say.
Or it should be.
I wonder.
It's just annoying. I was just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and it's like paywall, and everything's a fucking paywall, and then and you can literally only read
It's
the
the
headline.
simulation.
Yeah, it's just it's annoying, and then even when you have the subscription, it doesn't figure it out.
The world we've built.
And I mean,
Yeah,
if Twitter,
it's just totally messed.
if Twitter got in the middle and algorithmically started deprioritizing content that did that, eventually, let's say what he was saying about Apple, Twitter could ultimately end up like Apple, which is you want your content that's subscribed to be that way, great. Users can subscribe to Twitter, to whatever news is, and when they click, it's good.
Yes.
Twitter can, honestly, it would make a better user experience if Twitter did get in the middle of that. I might not pay, paying $1 a month to The Atlantic as part of a $5 a month Twitter plan I pay.
Yeah,
that
totally.
gets me all the subscribed news. But right now, clicking a link and going to it, I just lose my fucking mind. I'm I end up going to Reddit to go find the fucking link where somebody broke it all down.
Totally.
It'd be cool to see if that ever happened one day.
No, I think that's the thing that should happen.
I know, it's like the irony of that.
There's definitely a loss of value here that is simply missing, where it's I understand that all these publications want to maximize their subscribers and kind of own their customer and stuff, but there's a huge number of people who are never going to subscribe to that publication.
No.
Let's say, not to pick on the Philadelphia Inquirer, but let's say you don't live in Philadelphia, so most of the time you don't want to read the articles. But every now and again, they've got some reporter on the scene at some news event, and they're actually the source article, and everyone else is just copying them and printing their stuff. And so you want to read the Philadelphia Inquirer article. But you're not. There's no chance you would become a subscriber. So they're not losing a subscriber, but they are annoying everyone who's not going to be a subscriber. So there's got to be some way to solve that.
One sort of quarter.
Yeah, exactly. It's
into Twitter,
I'll
put a
pay
couple Doge.
10 cents for this article or something.
Ooh,
Exactly.
I like that.
One Dogecoin for this article.
Yeah.
It should be I'll pay 10 cents for this article. Whatever, 15 cents, 20 cents. It's fine. And that should work.
Music
that's how it should work.
Music artists get paid like that already. It's per listen, basically.
Yeah.
Scaled out over a lot of dimensions.
Exactly.
News is going to have to go that way.
Micropayments.
There's just this exactly, and there's no losers here. In fact, the media company will be a winner because they will get incremental revenue over and above those who would never subscribe to the publication.
Yep. That's right.
And then we can all read news and not have to be stuck behind paywalls. What a madhouse! I mean, we don't even have an app that's as good as WeChat in China. In China, you can live on WeChat basically. It's everyone's been there. You live on WeChat, you do payments, you do everything. It's it's great. Basically, WeChat's kick ass, and we don't have anything like WeChat outside of China. So I was my idea would be how about if we just copy WeChat? Hey, copy them.
Buys Twitter, copies WeChat.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
Better user experience.
Well, before you have to go, we should probably get a selfie or a picture with you, if you don't
Is
mind.
that okay? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
What are you doing these days?
What am I doing these days? YouTube, and I review electric cars for a living. I rent out those cars on Turo, car sharing, and I'm considering what it would look like to build an app that makes that experience better. Because Turo is good, but it is not specialized, and so...
No, there's so many things it could do better for the Tesla experience.
Yeah.
If you build it, I'll use it.
Man, autonomy is just such a monumental breakthrough that it's it's just car sharing will just not matter really.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. But the 0.5 step of like, what do other learnings maybe do you have there as far as maintaining cars? Who's responsible? Those kinds of things. That's where I think it has.
I think there will need to be like sort of a shepherd of cars.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to be at this point.
Car shepherd.
Even though you told people years ago not to try that.
No, I mean,
so this is
no,
a bad idea until we're there.
It's not like this. Like cars still need to be like maintained. Like if it's like, you know, you got to clean the car. You got to, you know, if it gets scuffed or damaged, it's got to be. It's like tending a flock of cars. Basically.
I know.
I know very personally.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll still. It's like, I mean, I think it will effectively, like for people that are currently like Uber or Lyft drivers, it'll be like, okay, like instead of you driving yourself, you manage, I don't know, 50 cars or something like that, and you tend to your flock.
Exactly. Yeah.
Basically.
Ryan has 52 Cybertrucks on order.
Oh, really? Okay.
Fleet in the Bay Area.
We need to get on that. I mean, the design at least finally is locked, and we're
For sure locked.
yeah, it's locked. For sure locked.
Pencils down.
Yeah, seriously, we got too carried away with the. Anyway, that
Features.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner, yeah.
Just kept changing.
Yeah. I mean, last year the chip shortage was so bad that even if we had, it wouldn't matter. Like you could you're just robbing one pocket to pay the other pocket. Like, so you could, and we couldn't make the stationary storage stuff because stationary storage batteries they used chips too.
Yep.
So then we had to like basically starve the Powerwall line to make cars, and even then couldn't make all the cars we wanted to make. So, and we go straight from that into China COVID shutdown, which was really like not just affecting Shanghai production, but also like there's still some parts that are for cars made in California that are with the parts made in China, and it was, and we had tooling stuck in China as well. So I think, I'm not sure everyone knows how serious the COVID shutdowns were in China up there, and it's not done yet, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not like major green light yet. It's still bumpy.
Yeah, still have to ramp up.
If you were to guesstimate, when would the Cybertruck hit production?
I think middle of next year.
Okay.
Roughly 12 months-ish.
Okay.
I'm
excited.
How excited we are for it, man.
I'm so excited.
I've got a
Me too.
Starlink
I mean,
already. It's going to go out on the mountaintops.
I mean, that's
with
what I'll
me.
be driving when it's going to get out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I stopped having kids at 4 because I can't grow. I can't have a
You have a
Cybertruck if
Cybertruck.
I'm past that. So I stopped at 4.
Smart man.
I'm done. 6 seats.
You outdid your contribution to society. by
Exactly,
doubling
yeah.
it.
I mean, good for you. It's like, I mean, man, so many of the friends I know have like 0 or 1 kid.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always banging the baby drum. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, man, civilization's going to, collapse. And
No big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, where do you think people come from? Like, some magical fucking people factory? It's like,
Stork. The stork.
the stork, the baby store. I mean, like, they got to come from somewhere, and they take ages to grow. So unless like the thing that tends to happen is like once the birth rate starts going down, it seems to accelerate in a downward trajectory. Like Japan is a leading indicator here. It's insane.
They're about to collapse.
No, it's
Population
like
collapse.
nutty. They lost 600,000 people last year. That negative 600,000 last year. And Japan is like pretty close to being the most, like their life expectancy is like 85. So, like that's the only thing. That was what was keeping the population plummeting before. But now, despite having like the world's longest lifespan, we're still losing population.
Oh, wow.
It's saying something.
Yeah, it is saying something.
So,
It seems to me the rate of that decline is such one that's going to be not really able to be turned around. We kind of got to plan for what we do in spite of it happening. Yeah, like.
well, if that trend continues, Japan's just going to flat out disappear, as will most countries in the world. So. It's not like, I'm just saying if that trend continues, hopefully it doesn't. But if it does, this is going to be, I don't know what China's going to do. Like China's going to have like a period of time of great prosperity of like the next 10 years. And then, but if China's at like roughly half replacement rate, maybe.
Oh, whoa.
Because of the one-child policy. Right.
They got rid of the one-child policy several years ago.
Yeah.
Then made it a two-child policy. Now it's a three-child policy.
Okay.
Birth rate unchanged.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's so ingrained in them for who knows how many
Oh.
decades.
Economic
Interesting.
conditions matter
Yeah.
too.
Oh.
And Japan never had a one-child policy, and they still went that path.
Yep.
So, it's just you just look at the trends. It's like
Yeah.
basically with education and urbanization,
Yeah,
birth
saw
rate
that.
plummets.
Yeah.
And it's there's people like, oh, people can just afford it. Nope, actually, the places that have the best social safety nets have the lowest birth rate.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's not the reason.
Yeah, so the inverse is true, right? The poorer you are, the more kids you have.
Yes.
Yeah, and mostly I think there's a social economic study that says that the reason why is because parents need comfort.
I mean, you could say like one could like say figure out whatever causes. It's hard to say what the cause would be, but the correlation cannot be argued with.
Yeah.
The more religious, the less educated, and the poorer, the higher the birth rate.
Yeah.
So like if for low if like there's low religious, low on the religion, high on education, and high on income, that has the lowest birth rate by far.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if we parse the data, there's probably an argument to be said how we got to the size. Religious had a large impact on getting to the size of population we did, because if you study religion, you know, like most of them preach to be fruitful and
Moses, go
multiply, to grow
forth.
numbers.
Yeah.
The Mormons, the Catholics.
Go forth and multiply.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the biggest, you know, I
Go
mean,
forth and
Catholics are a
multiply.
billion people. They mean a lot of people. That's how you build it.
Or
That's
fuck
what I'm doing.
off. I don't know.
Is it? I like the
But
fuck
we're
off.
interpreting that as go forth and multiply. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully things turn around. But the current trend is not good from a birth rate standpoint. I'm trying to set a good example. You know?
Another reason why we need another civilization on another planet.
Yeah. The number of humans is not trending well. I think a lot of people are under the impression that the current number of humans is unsustainable on the planet, and this is totally untrue.
Yeah.
We could double the number of humans and be okay, and still keep the rainforests.
People forget we're animals. If we actually couldn't sustain it, we would just die off.
Yeah, the population density is actually very low, and most parts of the world have no people in them. So if you fly over the country, from LA to New York or something, and you look down and say what percentage of the time, if you dropped a bowling ball, would you hit someone?
Very low. Surprisingly low.
Round down to
second.
zero.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Most
You can just look out the window
few cities.
and say,
Yeah.
And not just a
There's a
bowling ball,
five-
you could do it with most objects and you still hit them.
yeah, you could
Oh,
do something bigger than a bowling ball.
I feel like we should test this.
Yeah, if you have
SpaceX has the tools.
if you have a cannonball and your goal is to hit a person or die, you're gonna die because you're not gonna succeed in hitting a person. Even in LA, you think LA's got a lot of people, but you look at the actual. If you just looked at say what cross sectional area is human, like the cross section you take several blocks in LA, and make the houses and cars translucent. And look at looking at from above, what percentage of the cross section of the area is humans? It's almost nothing. It's below 1% in LA.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that giant ball of flesh they did that if you combined every human into it? They said in New York City. You've seen it, right? The big ball of goo of all of humans pushed
Yes.
into one thing. It would sit in New York's. What's the big park in New York?
Central Park?
It would sit in Central
That's
Park.
it?
That's
it's
it?
And it's a little bit taller
Yeah.
than the tallest skyscraper. It's not very big at all. If
You
took
just
every
had
human to smash
like a
it.
cuboid of humans.
Cuboid of human.
Cuboid
It's
of
not
humans.
much.
The volume.
That's it.
Oh God, that's wrong. What's it? Just a giant meatball.
It's like meatball.
It's all
It's all
humanity.
We're a
It's
giant.
everyone. It's all of us.
We're just a meatball and
I know, it's-
You
Yeah.
have to send that to Elon
you
to post the
for pointing
meme,
that
dude.
There we go. There we
yeah.
go.
Actually, on
A screenshot without the.
on a single floor, you could fit all humans in New York City without on one floor without even having.
What do you mean on one floor?
I mean, not.
Oh, surface area.
Yeah.
How thick would that human
pi b?
No, it's just one human total. I'm gonna say there's no humans. It's no without stacking.
Without stacking, it's just side by side. You mean?
Yeah, just say like, what's the cross-sectional area of a human?
Yeah.
Say, okay, there's 8 billion of those.
Yeah.
What's the area of New York City? Oh, it's less than. The
You can
humans
fit
are
all
less
the
than-
humans
you can
standing.
fit all the humans in New York City.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love the phrase cross-sectional area of a human. I just think there's something
Yeah, from
raw
space.
about that.
It's just we're targeting, and the cross section is low, so we're gonna have to adjust course in the missile
Yep.
because of that low cross section of humanity.
Yep.
That's basically what it comes down to.
Oh.
So yeah, anyway, yeah, it's like if people like live in some bustling city, they think humans must be everywhere, but actually, there are very few cities. Like no place in America has the density of Manhattan, and then even if you've got like a sort of what seems like a dense city like LA, the actual cross-sectional area that's human is small, like less than 1% of the area is human. So that means that if you drop a cannonball, that doesn't bounce too much, the probability of hitting a human is extremely low.
Wow, that's interesting.
We've had pieces from rockets of multiple nations re-enter the tanks and crash uncontrolled and not hit anybody many times.
When we had the space shuttle tragedy, like on entry, it rained debris across the entire United States, and I don't think there were any injuries at all.
Yeah.
Like the entire,
Yeah.
a lot of debris, and nothing. No,
Everyone
no.
was scared. Oh my god, it almost hit me.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They weren't bowling
Yeah.
balls.
Like they recovered most of the material from the shuttle,
Wow.
but and 0 people were hit, I believe.
And here's an interesting part of that is it was going not vertical. It was
Yeah.
going around the Earth, which increases the probability.
No, it's coming in from orbital, so it's going parallel, more or less parallel to the Earth's surface, and start breaking up. I believe over the U.S.
Like a crop duster.
or at least certainly none of the parts fell in the ocean. It all fell on the land, I believe. That's it, because it's when you're going orbital, you're going parallel to the Earth's surface. Roughly 25 times the speed of sound. So the shuttle is decelerating and breaking apart and the debris is raining down on the U.S. and no people were hit. So there are actually very few humans on Earth.